Hey everybody, welcome back!
My sister said, "Your kid is a little behind." My 8-year-old daughter's shoulders drooped. I looked at her and said, "Behind like your son's grades? The ones I've been paying to fix." Her face went pale. And then I made a decision. I never planned to humiliate my own sister in front of my kid, but sometimes a line gets crossed so cleanly that you don't even recognize yourself afterward. It happened at my place on a Sunday afternoon. Nothing dramatic on the surface. Pizza boxes on the counter, my 8-year-old daughter Lily at the table drawing horses, my younger sister Megan scrolling on her phone like she owned the place. Megan is 22, technically an adult, practically not. I've been paying her rent for the last 6 months because she lost another job and our mom begged me to help her get back on her feet. We were talking about school. I asked Lily how her math test went. She shrugged and said it was hard but she tried. Before I could even respond, Megan laughed and said, "Your kid is a little behind, you know that, right?" The room went quiet in that way that feels heavier than yelling. Lily didn't say anything. She just pulled her shoulders in and stared at her paper like it suddenly offended her. That image locked into my brain instantly. I asked Megan what she meant. She said she just calls it like she sees it. She said kids these days are soft. She said if Lily was my age she'd be way further along. She said it like she was doing me a favor. I looked at Lily and then back at Megan. And before I had time to think, the words came out. "Behind like your son's grades. The ones I've been paying to fix." That wiped the smug look off her face immediately. Megan's kid is 6 and already struggling badly in school. I've been quietly covering tutoring twice a week because Megan kept saying she'd handle it next month. Next month never came. Megan went pale and looked at our mom, who suddenly found the window very interesting. Lily looked up at me confused like she wasn't sure if she was in trouble or if someone else was. Megan told me that was a low blow. She said I embarrassed her. She said family doesn't talk to each other like that. I asked her if family insults children to feel superior. Our mom stepped in right away. She said let's all calm down. She said Megan didn't mean it that way. She said Lily is sensitive. He said I was overreacting. That was the moment something shifted for me. Not snapped. Shifted. I realized Megan had never once faced a real consequence. Not for quitting jobs. Not for dumping her kid on babysitters she couldn't afford. Not for taking my money without thanks. And definitely not for taking shots at my daughter. Megan grabbed her bag and said she didn't come here to be attacked. She left without looking at Lily. After the door closed, Lily asked me quietly if she was dumb. I told her no. I told her learning takes time. I told her she was doing fine. But inside I was already done being the bigger person. That night I opened my banking app and stared at the rent payment scheduled for Megan's apartment. I thought about all the times I'd swallowed my irritation for the sake of peace. I thought about my mom's constant excuse that Megan was still young. And I made a decision that scared me a little. I didn't warn anyone. No speech. No dramatic announcement. I just canceled the rent payment and went to bed. The next morning my phone blew up before 8. Megan called 6 times. Text stacked up underneath. "Is this a mistake? My landlord says rent didn't go through." Rachel, answer me. Mom is freaking out. I took Lily to school first. She held my hand longer than usual before getting out of the car. I told her to have a good day and meant it like it mattered. When I finally called Megan back, she answered on the first ring. He said there had to be an error. He said I promised. She said her landlord doesn't care about family drama. I told her it wasn't an error. I told her I wasn't paying her rent anymore. She went quiet for a second, then said, "Are you serious right now? Over a joke?" I said it wasn't a joke. I said she insulted my kid and doubled down. I said she never apologized. I said I was done funding her life while she tore down an 8-year-old to feel smart. She said I was punishing her son. He said I was cruel. She said I'd regret this. An hour later my mom called. He didn't yell. That was worse. He asked me why I was doing this. He said Megan is struggling. He said family helps family. She said Lily will forget what was said. I asked her why Megan never forgets to ask for money but always forgets to be kind. Mom said I was being stubborn. She said I was tearing the family apart. She said Megan is young and still learning. That word stuck with me. Bernie. I told her maybe it's time she learned something real. By the afternoon, Megan showed up at my house without asking. She stood on the porch like she expected to be let in just because she existed. I opened the door and she walked right past me, already mid-rant. She said I embarrassed her. She said Lily needs thicker skin. She said I think I'm better than her because I have my life together. I told her to lower her voice. Lily was in the next room. Megan laughed and said, "See, this is what I mean. You're raising her to be fragile." That was the moment I knew this wasn't about one comment. This was about who Megan had been for years. The entitlement. The cruelty dressed up as honesty. I told Megan she wasn't welcome in my house until she could apologize to Lily. A real apology. Not sorry you felt that way. Not sorry if it hurt. An actual apology. She said she wouldn't apologize to a child. So I told her she could leave. She stood there for a second like she thought I was bluffing. Then she grabbed her bag and said fine. Don't come crying to me when mom takes my side. That night my mom sent me a long message about keeping the peace. About how Megan was crying. About how I was being too harsh. I didn't respond. Instead I helped Lily with her homework. We laughed when she got a problem wrong and tried again. Before bed she asked if Aunt Megan was mad at her. I told her none of this was her fault. But I knew something bigger had started. And it wasn't going to stop just because my family wanted everything quiet again. The surprise didn't come from Megan losing her temper. I expected that. It came from how deeply she tied my name to her life without telling me. 3 days after I stopped the rent payment I got an email from her landlord. Not a reminder. Not a warning. A confirmation request. It asked whether I was still the primary financial contact on Megan's lease and if future notices should continue going through me. I sat there rereading it, feeling stupid for not realizing how far she'd gone. She hadn't just been accepting help. She'd been building her safety net out of my identity. I replied calmly and truthfully. I am no longer financially responsible for this tenant. Less than 2 hours later Megan was pounding on my door. She didn't bother pretending this time. No small talk. No fake smiles. She walked in shaking, saying she got an email saying her lease was under review. She said the landlord gave her 14 days to prove income or vacate. She kept repeating 14 days like it wasn't real. She asked me how I could do this to her and her son. I told her I didn't do anything to her son. I just stopped lying to cover for her. She said I knew she couldn't afford that place alone. She said I was trapping her. She said family doesn't pull the rug out from under each other. I reminded her that family also doesn't humiliate children. That's when she surprised me. She stopped crying and got cold. She said maybe Lily actually is slow. She said maybe I just can't handle the truth. She said I coddle her and that's why she'll never catch up. She said all of that knowing Lily was in the house. I told her to leave immediately. No discussion. No warnings. She stood there for a second staring at me like she was recalculating who I was. Then she laughed and said fine. When your kid can't handle the real world, don't blame me. That night Lily barely touched her dinner. When I asked her what was wrong she hesitated and then asked me if being behind meant being broken. That question did something to me. The next morning instead of calling my mom or arguing with Megan I made appointments. I took the money I'd been spending on Megan's life and used it for Lily. A full educational assessment. Not through the school. Through a private specialist who didn't rush or assume. While we waited for the results, Megan kept spiraling. She texted non-stop. Then stopped. Then started again with guilt. With anger. With threats that our mom would never forgive me. Then the results came in. Lily wasn't behind. Not even close. She tested above average in reading comprehension and logic. The only issue noted was disengagement due to lack of challenge. The specialist said she was coasting because the work didn't stimulate her. I sat in my car afterward and cried. Not because I thought Lily needed to be brilliant, but because she had been shrinking herself quietly while an adult tore her down for sport. I printed the report. I highlighted the conclusions. And then I sent it to Megan. No commentary. No insults. Just proof. Hours passed. Nothing. That evening my mom called and told me Megan asked to move back home. Mom said she couldn't handle Megan's attitude anymore. She said Megan blamed me for everything but refused to explain what actually happened. Then my cousin messaged me. Then another. People asking what really went on. Apparently Megan had been telling everyone I cut her off over a joke, that I chose my pride over family, that Lily cried over nothing. For the first time I didn't rush to protect her reputation. I answered honestly, calmly, with facts. And that's when Megan realized something too late. Her story only worked when I stayed silent. It didn't blow up the way Megan always claimed things did. No screaming matches. No dramatic ultimatums. It came apart slowly and that somehow made it worse for her. The first sign was my mom changing how she spoke to me. She stopped calling to tell me I was being unfair. She started calling to ask what actually happened. What exactly did Megan say to Lily? How long had I really been paying Megan's rent? Why a landlord had called her asking whether Megan had stable income. Apparently Megan tried to get ahead of the situation by telling everyone she was being forced out because I snapped and cut her off out of spite. But she couldn't keep her details straight. One version had her paying rent herself. Another had me promising forever. Another blamed a clerical error. The more she talked, the messier it got. About 10 days later Megan lost the apartment. Not in some dramatic eviction scene like she later described. He just ran out of time. She couldn't prove income. She couldn't cover what she owed. She packed fast and angry and told anyone who would listen that I ruined her life. She asked my mom to watch her son while she figured things out. She asked me for a loan. She said just enough to get settled. She said she'd pay me back. I said no. She stared at me like she was waiting for me to laugh and admit I was kidding. When I didn't, she said I was heartless. She said I was punishing her kid again. I reminded her that I'd been paying for his tutoring for almost a year without ever being asked. She didn't answer that. Megan bounced around after that. A friend's couch that lasted a week. Another that ended after an argument about chores. Then back to my mom's place with the promise that it would only be temporary. Every place had rules Megan didn't like. Every situation ended with her saying someone betrayed her. At the same time, something else was happening quietly. Lily started changing. Her teacher emailed me asking what had clicked because Lily was raising her hand more. She joined a small advanced group for reading. She stopped asking if she was wrong before answering questions. At dinner one night, she told me school felt easier lately, like her brain finally woke up. I didn't tell her why. I just listened. A few evenings later, my mom came over unannounced. She didn't come in hot. She didn't come to argue. She sat at my kitchen table and stared at her hands for a while before saying she didn't realize how much I'd been doing for Megan. She said Megan told her Lily cried because I yelled at her. He said Megan claimed I was unstable and vindictive. I slid the assessment report across the table. My mom read it slowly. Then she read it again. She didn't say anything for a long time. Finally, she said Megan never mentioned this. Not once. That silence said more than any argument ever could. From that point on, Megan felt the shift. Calls stopped getting returned right away. People asked questions instead of taking her side automatically. Her stories landed flat. The sympathy she was used to didn't show up. One afternoon, Megan came to my mom's house while I was there. She looked exhausted in a way I hadn't seen before. Not dramatic tired. Just worn down. She asked why everyone was suddenly treating her differently. She asked why no one believed her anymore. I told her because eventually people compare notes. She said I turned the family against her. I told her I stopped cleaning up behind her. She didn't argue. She just grabbed her bag and left. That's when it finally became obvious to everyone, including Megan. Her life wasn't falling apart because I cut her off. It was falling apart because once the money and excuses disappeared, there was nothing left holding it up. Megan didn't crash all at once. There was no single moment she could point to and say that's when everything went wrong. It was slower than that and maybe harder to escape. Living with our mom stripped away a lot of the excuses she used to rely on. Mom wasn't cruel, but she was firm in a way Megan wasn't used to. There were expectations. Wake-up times. Helping around the house. Being home when she said she would be. None of it was extreme. All of it felt unbearable to Megan. The real pressure came from her son's school. Calls started coming in regularly. Missed homework. Acting out. One teacher asked whether there had been changes at home. Megan tried to brush it off at first. Said kids act up when they're bored. Said the school was overreacting. But the calls kept coming, and for once, there was no one else to blame it on or quietly fix it behind the scenes. She complained to me once over text that everyone was suddenly on her case. I didn't respond. A few days later, she showed up at my house without warning. No anger. No accusations. Just standing there like she wasn't sure what to say anymore. I didn't invite her inside. We stayed on the porch. She said she felt like everything was piling up. She said she couldn't get ahead no matter what she did. She said her son asked her why she was always mad at people. That was the first time I saw something real flicker across her face. Not guilt exactly. More like confusion. Like she'd never considered that question before. She didn't apologize. Not yet. She talked around it instead. Asked how Lily was doing. Asked if she really liked school now. Asked what that assessment actually meant. Whether it really showed Lily was ahead. I answered her questions without softening anything. I told her Lily was doing well. I told her the evaluation showed she needed more challenge, not less. I told her confidence had been the biggest change. Megan nodded like she was filing it away. She asked me if I thought she was a bad mother. I told her I thought she'd been careless with her words and irresponsible with her choices, and that those things catch up to people. She didn't argue. She just stood there quietly for a minute and then left. Over the next few weeks, changes started showing up in uneven ways. Megan began attending her son's school meetings instead of skipping them. She took a part-time job and stopped quitting after the first bad day. She complained, but she still went back the next shift. She still slipped sometimes. She made comments that edged toward cruelty. But now people didn't laugh them off. They corrected her. And instead of blowing up, she went quiet and swallowed it. My mom told me Megan asked about paying me back someday. Not now. Not soon. Just someday. It wasn't dramatic. She didn't frame it like a favor. She just asked what she owed. That alone told me something was shifting. Then Lily asked me a question that stopped me cold. She asked if Aunt Megan hated her. I told her no. I told her Megan had been wrong and unkind, but that didn't mean she hated her. I told her sometimes adults take longer to learn how to be decent than kids do. That night I got a text from Megan. Can I talk to Lily? No explanations. No excuses. No jokes. I stared at the message longer than I expected to, because this was the moment that mattered. This was where everything she'd been avoiding finally landed. I didn't answer right away, because if she was going to speak to my daughter again, it had to be for the right reason. I didn't respond to Megan's text until the next morning. I told her she could talk to Lily, but only if she understood one thing first. This wasn't about easing her guilt. This wasn't about fixing her image. This was about taking responsibility clearly and without excuses. She replied with one word. We met at my mom's house later that afternoon. Neutral ground. Lily sat on the couch beside me, legs tucked under her, quiet but alert. Megan stood near the doorway at first like she wasn't sure she'd earned the right to sit down. No one rushed her. Megan looked at Lily for a long moment before speaking. And when she did, her voice wasn't sharp or performative. It was plain. She said she had been cruel. She said things she never should have said to a child. She said Lily didn't deserve any of it. She said she was wrong to speak about her school, her intelligence, or anything else. No qualifiers. No jokes. No blaming honesty or stress. Then she apologized. Directly. To Lily. Lily didn't respond right away. She studied Megan's face like she was deciding whether the words matched the person saying them. Finally she said okay. And then she asked if Megan would stop saying mean things about people. Megan said yes. She didn't promise perfection. He just said yes. That was enough. After that, things didn't magically turn perfect. But they became stable. Megan kept her job. He saved a little. She followed rules at my mom's house. She corrected herself when she slipped. When she messed up, she owned it instead of looking for someone else to blame. Most importantly, she stopped speaking about Lily as if she were an object to evaluate. Months later, Megan paid me back the first small amount she owed. No announcement. Just a transfer with a note that said starting. Lily kept thriving. School stayed challenging in the right way. She stopped shrinking herself in rooms where adults talked too loudly. And our family found a quieter kind of peace. Not the kind built on silence or excuses, but the kind built on boundaries that finally stuck. I don't regret what I did. Not for a second. Because sometimes loving someone means letting them fall far enough to finally stand on their own. If you made it this far, thanks for reading. I'm curious what you would have done in my place. Share your thoughts. Leave a like if this story stayed with you, and thanks for being here. Thanks for being here.
These are some funny beauty fails that prove beauty. Prune. You must suffer to be beautiful.
Or maybe you're just born with it, in which case just
I woke up like this.
you're a shark puppet, okay?
Excuses. You're ugly.
I got me a BBL off Amazon, and you know, just for giggies, like just for gigs or whatever. It's looking like an egg. It's very much vacuum packed and sealed, so we're gonna open her up. She is from China, beautiful, gorgeous, foreign, exotic, thick queen. Okay, so, okay, so it comes with two little pads, little pooty pads, and then it comes with some shorts. So we're gonna try her on. Hold on.
Wait!
I found
Whoa.
you, Miss New Booty.
Whoa.
Get it together. Bring it back to me. What the? God knew I would just be way too powerful. Who is? What the hell is that? What the? You're freaking kidding me. I would just be too powerful. I would just be. What?
Oh, wow.
Are you out here freaking looking like a shelf? Oh, man.
Oh, that is
God would put me like this,
tempting.
it just would have been too much. It just would have been too much. What the? Look like a donkey. Looking like a donkey. I can knock people out with this thing, okay? What the hell? I would be way more obnoxious than I am now if I had all of this.
Nobody
okay?
could talk to me if I had that.
God just knew what he was. Shut the. Shut up! I just wouldn't know how to act. I simply would not know how to act, okay? And I fully believe that my creator knew what he was doing. He had a humble mind somehow, because